everybody. Sorry I've been gone for a while. I've totally neglected the channel. Neglected my other channel too. I've only been going on there on Sunday nights, so I need to make an effort to film some stuff, probably do a live sometime soon. So yeah, I'm way behind on everything for this channel. I didn't post a video for what I read in February, and I didn't post a video for everything that I read in March. But the standouts for last month, I read this trilogy at the recommendation of Larry Reed's here on YouTube, and I kept seeing it all over Instagram, and I was like, okay. And everybody was giving it wonderful reviews. And so this trilogy is on Kindle Unlimited, so you can go read it for free if you have Kindle Unlimited. If not, you can, the electronic copies, the ebooks are, I think, like $4. So they're fairly inexpensive, but you guys, it stole my heart, my soul, everything. It is my all-time favorite trilogy, and that trilogy is the Ravenhood trilogy from Kate Stewart. I am not going to tell you what this is about at all. The best thing you can do for yourself is go into these books not knowing anything. So the first book in the trilogy is Flock, and right at the top there it says, "Can you keep a secret?" So that's why I'm telling you all, I am not telling you anything about this book. The second book is Exodus, and this one says, "Can you live a lie?" And then the last one is The Finish Line, and it says the Evolution of a King. And I gotta tell you guys, stole my heart, my soul, everything. I cannot stop thinking about these books. If I had to, and the cool thing is that these books come with a playlist, so you can go on Spotify. Let's see if I can find it. Go on Spotify, and there's a playlist for that trilogy. But if I had to sum it up in one song, I would say Don Henley's Boys of Summer from 1984. And it's so weird. I went to Trader Joe's, I think it was last week. Yeah, when we got rain. And so anytime it rains now, I'm thinking about that trilogy. So it was raining, and I'm like, oh, so I'm shopping around at Trader Joe's, and what comes on the music at Trader Joe's? Boys of Summer. I was like, oh my gosh, you are messing with me right now. You are messing with me. Like it's, I'm going to reread that again this summer. I loved it so much that I bought the ebooks. After I read them for free, I bought the ebooks, and I turned around and bought the physical copies, and they now live on this shelf, totally displayed, because I love it. Loved it, and I'm totally going to reread that. And I just finished, at the end of the month in March, I've had this book sitting on my shelf for about, I want to say, a year and a half. And that's Crescent City, The House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. I've had this sitting on my shelf for about a year and a half, maybe 2. And I got this at Target that long time ago. And I never got around to reading it, because mostly I was very intimidated by the length of this book. As you can see, it's a chunker. This is 799 pages long. So I kind of just, I was terrified, So I finally picked it up. I finished it at the very end. I think I finished it March 31st, and I adored it. This one is an urban fantasy murder mystery. Super fun to get into. I was very scared because I don't normally read fantasy or a lot of fantasy, especially high fantasy. I'm very scared of it for some reason because I tend to think that I'm going to go in there and get very confused with world building and all that stuff. This was not complicated at all to follow. So like I said, murder mystery in an urban fantasy setting. So you have all sorts of stuff going on here. You have fairies, angels, archangels, shifters, humans, like all sorts of stuff, an entire political system. The way that Sarah J. Maas wrote these characters and their relationships, the conflict, political conflict, and all that stuff, it was absolutely brilliant and super easy to follow. And also, I was so confused. Well, confused, not in a bad way, but like I couldn't trust anybody. Once you start getting into the murder mystery, I was like, everybody's a suspect. I can't trust a single person. But it turned out like all the twists and turns, the plot twist, it was brilliant. It was super fun, and I adored it. And so earlier in March, the second book came out, House of Sky and Breath, which is I believe this is going to be a tetralogy, meaning 4 in the series, because let me get this one. At the very beginning, I mean, just look at this artwork. Isn't that gorgeous? Right at the very beginning of the book, for this, no, it's on this one. It says the Crescent City series, and it says House of Earth and Blood. Well, this, is the House of Earth and Blood. When the new one came out in March, I picked it up at Target because it was 30% off. So I picked it up there the day that it was released. And in here, it looks like it's going, nope. This one only has 2, House of Earth and Blood and House of Sky and Breath. For some reason, I was thinking this was going to be a tetralogy, meaning 4. I must have seen that somewhere. So just don't listen to me. But this is the second one, and I think there's going to be a third. I have not picked this one up yet because I'm scared. I'm so scared. Because it's like, okay, when I finish this, how long am I going to have to wait for the next one to come out? Like another 1.5 years or something. But I'm probably going to read this one in a couple of months. But I'm really looking forward to it. So I went down the Sarah J. Maas rabbit hole, and I had purchased this set, A Court of Thorns and Roses, also known as ACOTAR, the ACOTAR series here on YouTube. I had picked this up, I think it was when it was available in the box set after the last book came out, and I haven't started it. So that's what I'm going to do in this video. I'm going to start with the first one, Court of Thorns and Roses, and I will try to keep you guys updated on how that goes. This is also a fantasy series, so we shall see. But yeah, the 2 standouts from the previous months were the Ravenhood trilogy by Kate Stewart. The first book in that one is Flock, the second is Exodus, and the third is The Finish Line. Go on Kindle, go on KU, Kindle Unlimited, download it. I'm not telling you anything, and go read those books. You do not need a Kindle. You can read it on your phone. You can read it on your iPad, your computer. It's just an e-file, so you'll be fine. But I'm not gonna say anything. I'm just telling you, go read it, because it's brilliant. And let me see. Yeah, so I'm going to get started on this, and I will check in with you guys later. Okay, update. So I did find the page. I am not crazy. I am not crazy. I promise you. I mean, I am crazy, but not that crazy. So I did find, when I was talking about the Crescent City series by Sarah J. Maas, I did find it in the book. So right here it says the four houses of Midgard. And it's the House of Earth and Blood, which is this one up here that I just finished. And then it says House of Sky and Breath, which is the one that just came out in March. And then it says House of Many Waters and House of Flame and Shadow. That's why I was thinking this is going to be a 4-book series. Maybe she does more. I don't know. But like I said, I'm probably going to read this one in a couple of months because it's like, I want to so bad, but then there's a part of me that's like, okay, dude, when you finish it, you're going to have to wait a couple years. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, just a quick update. Hi, everybody. So I have an update. I am on page 103, chapter 12 of ACOTAR. So, okay, so this book is written first-person perspective from the viewpoint of Feyre, who is a 19-year-old girl who lives with her 2 sisters and her dad in this kind of like beat up shacky sort of cottage south of the wall, and they're extremely poor, very, very, very poor. And so her dad doesn't really do much. He has some health issues, like a really jacked up knee, and her older sister, the eldest sister, Nesta, is kind of a biatch, and the middle sister, Elaine, I think that's how you say her name, she's just the one that gets babied a lot. So it's very much up to Feyre to provide for her family. So she does all the hunting, all the preparation of the meat that she hunts. She takes it to the market to sell. She sells the skins. So basically the entire family is dependent completely on her. They don't pull their weight at all. Like there was one scene where Nesta was kind of throwing a hissy fit because she had to go out and chop wood for the fireplace in the winter. So anyways, the book starts off with it being the dead of winter, and they're going hungry because there hasn't been any food to eat. So Feyre's out in the woods hunting for food so that she can feed her family, even though she's the youngest of 3 sisters, or they're gonna starve. Where she comes across, I think it's a doe, and she was getting ready to hunt that doe when she spots a wolf, and she kind of has a freak out moment, and she ends up killing the wolf. She skins the wolf, kills the doe, comes back home, prepares the meat, and they take it to market for the skin of the wolf and all that stuff to get money, coin for her and her family. Well, it turns out that the wolf that she killed was a fairy. I guess in this world, fairies are shapeshifters. Didn't know that was a thing. But anyways, there's a ginormous wolf shows up at their house, and says that according to the treaty, there's some sort of a treaty between humans and fairies, and because she killed that fairy that she thought was a wolf, she in exchange has to go live in, I think it's called Prithia. Let me see. Hold on. let me see if I can pronounce. I'm sorry, I'm just so terrible with these names. Prithian, in the land of the fairies, because she took the life of a fairy. So this whole time she's under the impression that fairies eat people, they're horrible, they're cruel, they're just a bunch of bastards. So she ends up having to go to Prithian to go live with the fairy. And it turns out that the fairy, the wolf that came to get her, is a fairy, and he is a high fae. Don't know what that is either. Still learning. Tamlin. So we've been introduced to Tamlin and this other fairy that's kind of hanging around, Lucian. Now, there's also some sort of a weird blight in this world where the magic for the fairies and all the land is going kind of wonky. So there's something like there's a mask on their face that they cannot take off. Like they can't physically pry it off. It's glued to their face somehow. It's permanent, so long as they're in human form. Well, again, but not all fairies can shapeshift. So there's that whole mystery going on. And then there's another entire thing where we're learning about all these different creatures that, because there's been something that has disturbed the force, if you will, the magic in this land. So it's like the magic is going wonky, and there's all these other dangerous magical creatures that are kind of lurking around. And I'm not really sure what's going on with that whole portion of it. I'm only 102 pages in since I last checked in with you guys. But it's really cool so far. It has not been hard to follow with the world building. Now I will say that what's his name? Lucian's mask that he cannot take off because the magic is wonky is of a fox, and he has red hair. He's got a scar. I forget if it's the left or the right. He's got a scar going from his forehead down this way, and he's missing an eye. But instead of having an eye patch, he has like a magical eye in there. It's not his real eye, but it's like some sort of a magical eye. But his mask is a fox. And even though we haven't learned much about him so far, because like I said, I'm only 100 and something pages in, it's like, oh, that guy's shady. I bet you he's going to be shady. Just because of the mask. It's a fox. Now, that's Lucian. Now, Tamlin's mask, the way that it was described, it's just gold with emeralds on it. So I'm not sure. And so far, his character has been kind of, I would say, like, I don't know, kind of broody, it seems like. I don't really know what's going on with him. And in regards to the masks, everybody has one. She has to go live at Tamlin's house. Well, it's not really a house. I wouldn't even say a castle. It's like, take a castle and put it on steroids, and that's where Tamlin lives. And even his staff, his servants and everybody has to wear a mask because they're all fairies, and there's something wonky going on with the magic that is just, he was saying that their magic is dwindling, and it's some sort of an illness. And he was also, when I say he, I mean Tamlin, was also telling Feyre, who's our main character in this book, the 19-year-old girl, that there is a possibility that that illness will cross the border, will cross the wall into where the humans live, and it may affect the humans. They're not quite sure yet, so I don't know. And also there's been mention of a cauldron with a capital C, cauldron. So I'm like, what is up with that? So so far the revelations have been a little bit slow, but intriguing. So I've been paying attention to as much as I can, because if anything that I learned from reading House of Earth and Blood is Sarah J. Maas in that book. This is only the second book I've read from her, or that I'm reading from hers. She has a way of dropping hints or clues or things that are very significant, or that will be very significant later on. She has a way of very discreetly dropping little hints, and it's almost done as, she does it in a way to where it's almost like it's just a mention in passing, you know? And then way later on, you see that it had significance. So I'm trying to pay attention to everything. I've been tabbing the book. I don't know if you can see that. I've been tabbing to try to focus a little bit more. But yeah, I'm going to start back up again. Like I said, I'm on chapter 12. And we'll see where this goes. Oh, check out this bookmark. Isn't that pretty? I found this on Etsy. And I got it because of the Ravenhood trilogy. Something about rainy days, y'all. I'm telling you. I'm not going to say anything about that book, but you all need to go read the Ravenhood trilogy. So let me get back to this, and I will check in with you guys in a little bit. Hey everybody, so I'm back. It's the next day. I think last time I left you guys, I was on chapter 12, and I did it again. I went on a reading binge, and I forgot to update the vlog, but I'm on chapter 22 now, page 198, and I have learned quite a bit. Let me see if I can recap. So, Feyre had heard a legend that if you were to trap this one type of creature, oh goodness, where was it? It started with an S, like a Sidland or something like that. Well, anyways, she trapped it, and according to legend, if you trap this specific type of creature, then it has to tell you, it has to answer you. It has to tell you everything you want to know. So she kind of like went along into the woods, set up a snare, and Lucian knew she was doing this. Like, Lucian was like, oh, if I were to do that, I would do it this way, and kind of, you know, gave her a few hints. And of course, they did all of this behind Tamlin's back, because Tamlin would have been pissed. Again, Tamlin is the fairy that came and took Feyre from her family in accordance with the treaty, because Feyre killed a fairy accidentally. Well, so she does that, and this creature tells her that, you know, that she has to stay. There's no way for her to leave. She has to stay with Tamlin, that she's safe with Tamlin, that she shouldn't try to leave and stop asking questions. She's absolutely safe with Tamlin. We keep hearing about this ominous she. I don't know who that is. It hasn't been revealed yet. But she seems like an absolutely brutal, evil, horrible person. We have also learned that Tamlin is basically a High Lord fairy, which is like, I guess, the equivalent to a king for the realm that she's in. And she's in the Spring Court, which is right above the wall where she was at. So there's all sorts of fairy kingdoms. Let me see, I'm going to look at the map really quick. The map of Perithian. So there's the Spring Court where she's living at with Tamlin and Lucian. Right above that, divided in two, is a Summer Court, the Autumn Court. Above that, the Winter Court. And then there's a mountain range, and then it goes Day Court and Night Court. So anyways, going back to where she trapped that thing and it was telling her stuff, she started to get attacked by these other creatures, and um, Lucian was supposed to come and help her, but he was kind of like MIA. So, and remember, you guys, I told you, I was like, there's something about Lucian that I'm just, he's shady. And then on top of that, his mask is a fox mask. So it's like, there's something shady and conniving about that guy. So yeah, so she goes out and traps the thing. Lucian's supposed to be there to help her. Oops, he's kind of not. Tamlin was just happened to be out patrolling the grounds, and he heard her. So he came in and like chopped everybody up, saved her. And there's this weird thing going on with Tamlin to where I'm like, huh. Because Feyre is battling with a bunch of her own prejudices based on folklore and legend against the Fae. And so we're seeing her internal struggle with that, everything that she's been taught and has learned throughout her entire life. But yet we get to see how Tamlin is just, he's really kind with her. He does a lot of things that are just very kind, you know, and she can't quite understand, and I certainly can't understand the motive, because the reason that he came and took her in accordance with the treaty was because she killed a fairy. Well, that fairy happened to be a really good friend of Tamlin's. So it's like, why is he being so nice if homegirl just killed your friend? You know what I mean? So we've learned that Tamlin is just, he's fascinated with her for some reason. He finds her fascinating. Not only because she's a human, but he keeps saying that she's not what he thought she was as a human. So I don't know if that speaks to her defiance, her bravery. And again, remember that, you know, she grew up very, very poor. Well, let me back that up. She didn't grow up poor. They were very, very wealthy, but they lost all their fortune. And are now poor. So she's been providing for her family this whole time, hunting and gathering and doing everything, basically taking care of 3 other adults, her 2 sisters, Nesta, Elaine, and then her dad. And we're also seeing her kind of struggling with this guilt that, oh my gosh, what is my family going to do now that I'm not there to care for them, to gather the food, to hunt for the food, to prepare the food, you know, all this other stuff. And Tamlin has informed her that he's taking care of them, but he hasn't really disclosed in what sort of sense, you know, like he's kind of letting her know that they have food and shelter and everything else. So it seems like he's taking care of her family, but now she's feeling guilty that while she's over there in the spring court in fairyland, that she doesn't feel bad about her family, because Feyre has a sense that her family considered her insignificant, regardless of how deeply dependent they were on her to do everything. So there's that whole situation. And let me see what else can I recap for you guys. There is a part where things are starting to get a little between Feyre and Tamlin. Nothing spicy, but it's like, hey, and she's like, hey, and he's like, hey girl, hey, you know, one of those things. And so let me see, what else can I tell you guys? Oh, so there is this entire situation where I just finished up, where there's this, we're learning that there is this rite on this festival that on the night of whatever, which is the Great Rite, and it's this night where all of the High Fae and all of the other rulers of all the other fairy kingdoms come down to the spring court, and they have this huge right, where, how can I'm gonna just say it. It's like one ginormous orgy, okay? And the reason for that is just so that they can harness all this magic for the land. And during this whole situation, Feyre kind of snuck out to go kind of look around, even though Tamlin said, stay the hell away, lock yourself up in your room, doesn't matter who comes a knocking, do not let anybody in, set up a snare, trap them, whatever, do not go out. Well, Feyre, being as stubborn as she is, was like, I'm gonna go out. And she has a run-in with these weird-looking fairy who were not wearing masks, that were like being, you know, a little, I wouldn't say they didn't assault her, but it would have gone that way. And there was another fairy that came in that kind of intervened and got her off the hook. He was also not wearing a mask. So now I'm kind of wondering, like, why is it only in the spring court? Is the spring court the only place that has some sort of a curse where they can't take off the mask? Because everybody else that was there wasn't wearing one, or what, they weren't wearing any. So that's, I'm still learning. I still got, you know, about over half to go. So it's been a lot of fun. And so Tamlin, you know, because he's the high fae, the lord, king, whatever, of the spring court, and he can shapeshift. So he shapeshifts into like this wolf with horns or whatever. And Lucian was the one that brought Feyre back, and he's like, yo, if Tamlin finds out, oh my gosh, this is not the night for lovemaking, okay? This is like straight up crazy. Well, he took her back to the house and left her there and was like, do not freaking leave. So about 2-3 o'clock in the morning, Feyre gets out of her room and then goes to the kitchen or whatever, and she runs into Tamlin. And then things get, I wouldn't say spicy. They don't get spicy. It doesn't quite go there, but there's some admissions from Tamlin that you're like, remember what I said? Hey girl, hey. Like sort of that. So I'm really enjoying it. It's super fun. Again, the world building, it's not difficult to follow. And like I was saying earlier in a bunch of the other clips, I am paying attention to everything because, like I said, what I noticed in House of Earth and Blood, Sarah J. Maas, from what I learned in that book, is she had a way of dropping stuff which seem insignificant when it's mentioned, almost like it's just mentioned in passing, and then later on you find out, oh shit, that was like a huge, you know, it's a huge reveal later on. So I'm kind of like just tabbing. I don't know if you guys can see. I'm just tabbing the crap out of everything. So I'll let you guys know. I'm still a little bit like about Tamlin, but he's an interesting character, you know, because he's the king. He's very broody, but he's, when you learn about his past, his families, the way that some of the Fae families are, especially Faes that are high Faes, Lord Faes, it's very brutal, and just like, oh my God, I mean, I couldn't imagine Christmas dinner with these people, you know? So when you get to learn about that, and then you read about Tamlin, it's just like, you know, I'm a little bit torn on his character. Like, I really like him, but I'm wondering if he's going to turn out to be a dick, you know, like, or some other royal douchebag, you know? So, we'll see. I'll keep you guys posted. Hi, I'm back. So I keep forgetting to update the blog, but I finished ACOTAR yesterday, and a lot happened, and I'm so torn. Okay, I'm giving it 4.5 stars. I thought it was brilliant. And there was so much that happened. I forgot where I last left the blog, but a quick recap if I can try to remember everything, because there's a lot to unpack here. But a crap ton of stuff happened. We found out who the ominous she is. Her name is Amarantha. And she has, what she did was, she kind of tricked all the kings from all the different areas of fairyland. That's what I'm calling it, Perithian. She kind of tricked them and has sort of enslaved them, and has slowly been taking all their powers. She can't use them. She can only take them. And we found out why only the people in the spring court, where Tamlin is from, have to wear that mask, and that was from Amarantha. She is a spiteful, evil person. She wanted to take Tamlin as her lover and I think wed him. And he rejected her because of the war against the humans, how she partook with the king of, hold on, let me go back here to the map. She was the general, the high general for the king of Hydron, I think it's how you pronounce it. And so she worked with him and Tamlin's father in the war against the humans, and he saw all the atrocities that she committed and how she killed off all her slaves, and instead of setting them free, she killed them and tortured them and all this other, I mean, terrible person. So he rejected her. And so she kind of got a little bit pissed, and threw this ginormous party under the mountain for the people of Spring Court, and told them all to wear masks or whatever. Well, that night she cast a curse that made the masks stick to their faces. Only the people of the Spring Court, because it was targeted towards Tamlin for rejecting her. What else did we find out? There's just so much. We got to meet Rysand, or Reese, pick a name, I don't know. And he was introduced, and he was just kind of like a, I don't know how I feel about him. Again, I don't know anything about this series at all. So if you know anything, please, I beg you, do not spoil it for me. I don't know. I'm going in here completely blind. I have no idea about anything in this series at all. I don't know any spoilers. I don't know anything about anybody. I'm learning as I go. So we got to meet Rysand, and he is the High Lord of the Night Court. And he is referred to as Amarantha's whore, and he has been for the last 50 years. So we get to meet him, and he has an interaction with Feyre, and he's talking to her, and he's like, oh, she doesn't know, does she? Well, it turns out, check this out, it turns out that the curse that is on the Spring Court and all of the fairy kingdoms, the Autumn Court, the Summer Court, the Day Court, Night Court, all of it, the curse was placed by Amarantha, and it's a curse in retribution to what happened to her sister. So in order to break the curse, Tamlin has to find a human that would kill a fairy and then fall in love with a fairy. So a person that has hate and prejudice in their heart to turn around and love a fairy. Well, everybody knew that. Everybody knew that except Feyre. And part of the curse was that nobody could speak of it. So even if they wanted to tell Feyre, they couldn't. It was part of the curse. So, and see, and that's the part that leaves me with so many questions. So I'll get to that in a minute. But so the Blythe, we find out, the sickness that's on the land is really Amarantha. She's the sickness, and she's coming to collect because the deal was in 49 years, if that part of the curse hadn't been resolved by him finding a person to kill a fairy and then fall in love with a fairy, then they lose everything, and it goes all to Amarantha. So Tamlin kind of knows that shit's gonna hit the fan, and he sends Feyre back home. Says, "Go home. I'm sending you home." You know, and they've had a few interactions already. Nothing super spicy, but they've had. It's kind of like fade to black a little bit, I think. And so he's told her that he loves her, but she won't say it, and that's another portion of the curse. She has to say it to him to break the curse, but she didn't know. So he sends her home. She goes back home, and she does find out. She gets to see it with her own eyes how well Tamlin has been taking care of her family. Like, they're no longer in poverty. They have this ginormous house. They're extremely wealthy. But they don't remember because Tamlin glamored her dad and the sisters. Well, turns out the glamour did not work on Nesta. Nesta was the only one that the glamour didn't work on. She didn't buy the bullshit. Like, she wasn't put under the spell where everything's honky-dory and Feyre's over there with some rich aunt. No, she remembers everything. She remembers when the wolf came into the house. She remembers Feyre being taken. She remembers everything. So when Feyre tells Nesta, like, dude, shit's not right in Prithian, Nesta tells her, get your shit and go, you know, which kind of, like, Nesta can be kind of very cold and just mean, you know, and it just makes me wonder, about her character, because, you know, does she really realize that how resilient and strong Feyre is, you know, and that's why she's telling her go handle shit, you know. So anyways, Feyre goes back, and it takes her 2 days to get back to the wall, and an additional 2 days to figure out where the gate is, the magical gate, to let her back into the spring court. And when she gets there, everything in the house is destroyed, like ransacked, and everybody's gone. Tamlin's gone, Lucien's gone, all the staff, everybody's gone. And the only person she runs into is Alice, which was one of the servants for Tamlin. And then Alice tells her everything. Like, hey, you could have broken the curse. If you would have listened to your heart and told him that you loved him, none of this would have happened. Like, you could have totally prevented this, you know? So, Alice kind of takes her to under the mountain where Amarantha lives and is holding everybody captive, Tamlin, Lucien. So she takes her over there, and Feyre goes in, and she gets to meet Amarantha. And Amarantha gives her a riddle to solve to release them immediately, or she has to go through 3 tasks. And she can't figure out the riddle. And then so she goes through with the tasks. And in the first task, she wins, but she gets injured. And when she gets injured, they take her back to her cell where they're keeping her. And Rysand comes in and makes a deal with her. Oh, and by the way, when Alice took her to the foot to under the mountain, at the entrance to the cave to go under the mountain, she gave her some tips, like don't trust anybody, don't make a deal unless your life depends on it. You know, and then she was trying to tell her this one part of the curse that she couldn't verbalize it. There was something in the curse that was still preventing her from telling her this one very important thing. And all she said was listen, you know. So Feyrefind completes the first tasks. She's very injured and she's in her cell and she's slowly dying. And Rysand, or Rhys, shows up and he basically makes a deal with her. And she remembers what Alice told her, like, don't make a deal unless your life depends on it. Well, at that point, it was like, make the deal or die, you know. So she made the deal with Rysand. And part of that deal that they strike is that if and when she finishes the tasks and they're all free, she has to go spend 1 week out of the month with Rysand at the night court. So as a result of that deal, she ends up with this like massive tattoo on her arm and on her hand, on her left arm and her hand. And on the palm of her hand, it's like an eye, but the rest of it is like the swirly stuff or whatever. But it heals her. Like, she's no longer running a fever, like the bones that were sticking out of her are no longer there. So all that happens. And because the tasks are on every full moon of every month, she's trapped over there with Amarantha under the mountain for 3 months, in between the tasks that she's been challenged with. So in between the first, second, and third task, Rysand is taking her to the court with these parties where he's getting her shit-faced drunk on fairy wine and stuff, and just having her debase herself in front of Tamlin, you know. And the whole time Tamlin can't do anything. He's just sitting there, just all stoic, no expression, no emotion, just a stone. And the whole time I'm like, what the fuck, you know, because here he is supposed to be this high lord, super powerful, and yet he does nothing. So I was confused. I was like, is it because of the spell? Like, what the F is going on here? So she completes the second task, where it was her and then Lucian, however you pronounce his name, and she passed that one with the help of Rysand, because it was a riddle, and Feyre can't read. She's illiterate. So it almost killed them both because she doesn't know how to read. So through the tattoo and the magic and everything, Rysand helped her out and saved her and Lucian. And finally, the third task, I was like, oh no, this is terrible. Like, so the third task was, she had to use this special ash blade and kill 3 innocent fairies, to lift the curse from Tamlin and from all of the kingdoms, all of them. So I was like, I don't know if I could do that. So she kills the first fairy, and she's really she's in a dark place. She's really struggling, because that's a huge decision. Like, do you sacrifice these people for the freedom of everybody, or do you kill yourself and it's all for nothing? Because then Amarantha wins, and they all the kingdoms lose all control to Amarantha, who's an absolute tyrant and just an evil person. So they get to the third person, because they had sacks over their head, And they get to the third person, and that third person is none other than Tamlin. So she has a choice. Do you kill the person that you love for the greater good, or do you kill yourself? And then she remembers what Alice told her to listen. And so while she's sitting there having this huge debate with herself and an internal struggle, you know, do I kill myself? Do I kill him? Like, what the fuck do I do? You know, she remembers this two things. Well, one thing, but it was mentioned twice. Sarah J. Maas got me again because I'm like, I'm paying attention to everything. No, I totally missed that one part that she overheard twice from two different people. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I said, she has a way of dropping things, but it's done in such a way that it's so clever. It is so clever because it just looks like it's something that happens in passing. And what it was that Tamlin's heart is made of stone. So, but when it happens in previous chapters, you're thinking, well, they're saying that because he's just a brute, cold, you know, king, that's a warrior, that's this and that's that. So you don't, I didn't think of it. I totally didn't think of it, you know, because when I was reading about it, I was thinking, does he really love her? Is he using her? Is he manipulating her? Like, because they're saying his heart is made of stone. No, his heart is literally stone. So he cannot be killed. But I'll get back to the other part of that later. So she shoves the knife in, he bleeds, but he doesn't die because his heart is made of stone. And so Amarantha gets freaking pissed. Like, she loses her shit and starts killing Feyre. And she's trying to force Feyre to say that she does not love Tamlin, that she doesn't love him, that she doesn't love him. And I mean, and it's a slow, torturous death. Like, she's just breaking all the bones in her body, like ribs, knees, all of it. I mean, she's just decimating her, you know. And in that scene where all this stuff is happening, it finally clicks, the riddle, that the answer to the riddle is love. And so with her last few breaths, she tells Amarantha that the answer to your riddle is love. And Amarantha kind of like freaks out. The curse is broken. And Tamlin just loses his shit and freaking kills Amarantha. Now, I will say, the way that he killed her, I was kind of like, come on, man. Like, I just wish it would have been so much more than what it was because of just how evil she is. But I was satisfied. I just wish it was a bit more. So anyways, Feyre, because she's human, she's just laying there like half dead. And all of the high lords from every kingdom give her a bit of light, their light to her. And so Lucian, because we find out Lucian is the High Lord of the Autumn Court, the High Lord of the Night Court, Rysand, gives her light, and all the other ones, and it brings her back to life. But when she comes back to life, she's now a High Fae. So the curse is broken, Amarantha is dead, and they go back to the Spring Court. But we're starting to see the dark place that Feyre is going to go because she took 2 innocent lives. And we're seeing where that's going to become an issue for her, because that's kind of a huge thing, you know what I mean? Like, you had to take the lives of 2 innocents for the greater good. And yes, even though the whole kingdom is free, everybody is no longer under the rule of this tyrannical, crazy person, it still weighs heavy on her mind. And so they go back to the Spring Court, and towards the end of the book, I think it's the last chapter, she gets a visit from Rysand, and she has a little discussion with Rysand. And there's one little part where Rysand kind of stumbles before he leaves, and I'm like, what was that? You know? But that's the end of the book, so I'm thinking it shows up in the second book, A Court of Mist and Fury, which I have over here. I'm going to start today, so I will make sure to try to vlog that one, but I got it in here. This one's thicker. It's much, much thicker, but I have it here. I'm going to start it. This one is, let me see here. I shall tell you, 624 pages. But I really liked it. Again, she got me in so many different ways, especially with that one specific thing about Tamlin. So my thoughts on the characters. I'm torn, you guys. I am so torn. Rysand, I don't know. Like, he was kind of being a douche. You know, the way that he was making Feyre get drunk and debase herself, and the way that he was having her dress and, you know, parading her around Tamlin, knowing Tamlin couldn't do anything, like goading him and egging him on, you know, and yet he got no response from Tamlin. Then we find out that the reason he was doing that was because Tamlin, out of all of them, is nothing but brute force. So if and when Feyre was to break the curse, Tamlin was their best chance of him destroying Amarantha. So he was just doing it to piss him the F off. To piss him the F off, so that when the time came, he just destroyed her, which that part worked out. And then there was another piece that was kind of said in passing that was mentioned, that Rysand said that Tamlin killed his family. So I was like, there's some beef there between those two. So I'm not sure what to think of Rysand, because, you know, yes, he did help Feyre in the trials. He did heal her, but that came with strings attached. So I don't know what his end game is. I don't know what his motive is. If he just was really doing all that to try to free them, to have Feyre free them all. If he's shady, I don't know. I'm hoping to find out more in the second book. Now let's see, Lucian, I'm kind of warming up to. I kind of am. I haven't seen too much of his character. You know, he did help Feyre, but when she got injured, he wasn't able to come and help her, simply because during that trial, he shouted for her to go a certain direction, and she did. So after that trial, he was punished, and his punishment was that Amarantha made Tamlin whip him. So he was, and she took their magic away, so he couldn't heal. So I'm not sure which way Lucian's character is going to go, but I am so torn on Tamlin. I am so incredibly torn on Tamlin, because it's like there's parts where it appears that he really does love Feyre, you know, but then there's other parts where I'm like, I don't know, especially once we found out about this entire curse, and that she was the key to breaking the curse. So when he came and took her from the village, that was not part of the treaty. That was a lie. It was not part of the treaty, because he realized that is the answer to Feyre is the answer to breaking the curse. So that's why he took her. He didn't take her under the premise of some bullshit treaty. No, he took her because he knew that she was the one that was going to break the curse. So it's like, was that, you know, how, I guess you can say courting, because he did a lot of very nice things for her. like a lot of sweet, very sweet things, you know. So it was like, was that all a plan to get her to fall in love with him, to break the curse, or was it really reciprocated? You know, and how far, and if it was scheming on his part, how far did he take it? You know what I mean? But I'm not sure. I'm so torn on his character. I really am. And, you know, there was a lot of sweetness between him and, between Tamlin and Feyre. But, and then another part that got me was during the trials. Like, and then that's another thing. Like, did he send her back? Did he send Feyre back and let himself be taken by Amarantha and stuff because he was so confident that he had emotionally manipulated her enough to where she would come back and sacrifice herself and everything for him and, you know, break the curse? I am so torn. I am so torn. So torn. And I think Sarah J. Maas did an incredible job of trying to sell us on Tamlin. But I just got questions, you guys. I don't know whether to trust him or not. And I'll tell you, I'll be honest. At first, till we got to all those revelations in the book, at first, I was really rooting for him. I really was. And I think I said in my previous videos, like, dude, I don't know. What if he turns out to be a douchebag? And I'm starting to really worry that he's going to turn out to be a total douchebag because of just some of the things that he's done. Some of the things that were mentioned in passing, his behavior and his reactions to all the stuff that was going on with Feyre during her trials under the mountain. It's just like, I have so many questions about him, and his motives, his intent, you know, was he really a good person, or was he just, or was this all just part of some ginormous scheme? Or did he really, really love her? You know, I don't know. So I am going to leave that here. I'm going to start the ACOMAF, A Court of Mist and Fury. I do not know anything about this series. If you have read them, please do not spoil it for me. Please, please, please. I will try to vlog this as much as I can because I suck at vlogging and I forget. I so forget to put shit up. So I will see you guys again in my next one, and I will try to monitor this channel a little bit more since, you know, I've been kind of skating on this one and a bit on my other one. So I will see you guys later. Bye.